れがイヌリグですね。S 字に曲がったワームの中心をラインが貫通しており、アクションを入れますとワームが縮み、テンションを抜くと。
Hey everybody, it's Nick from the Bass Hookup, and I had to make this video because I see on all my feeds this thing about this new hot Japanese rig, and I just want to know what it's all about. So looking at it, super interesting rig. It's called the INURIG, and what it is this little guy right here. Now, what it's interesting about this rig is it basically makes your worm come to life. It looks like a night crawler or something in the water. And I'm not going to really go over how to set this thing up. There's a bunch of videos out there already on it. I'll show you real quick right here. So what you do is basically you take a hollow tube, which I could tell you right now, it's not easy to come by the right size hollow tubing, okay? I had to go to Ace Hardware. I got some aluminum tubing, not even plastic, aluminum tubing, super thin diameter. And basically you skewer this worm so it makes an S pattern, as you can see right here. Now you're gonna have 3 pieces of tubing going in to the worm. So once you get your worm in place, I cut the tubing the right length so it's inside your worm. And your line could run freely through it, just like that. The other thing that's interesting is your hook is not tied to the line at all. Your line has to run through all these things in order to get that action that you see in that worm. Also, at the end of the worm, I used a barrel swivel to tie off to right here, if you could see that. The reason I did that, if I want to attach line down here and use it as a drop shot, it's going to avoid twisting, because this thing's going to twist like it's going to twist like nobody else's business. The other thing you could use it for, I thought would be good, is a Carolina rig. You know, this is the end of your rig. This is your worm. You put a weight, you know, your Carolina sliding slinker up here, bullet weight or barrel weight or whatever up here, and then you have this worm back there, and every time you're coming over the rocks or something, or you want to give this worm a twitch, it's going to come to life. The other thing I added to it right here is an O-ring, because in all the other videos, the hook is just skin hooked in the worm. Now, when you go to set the hook, say the worm's like this, the fish eats it. When you go to set the hook, this worm has to compress all the way down to get the hook set in that fish. As a matter of fact, that was my first concern about this bait. When I set the hook, I'm gonna set the hook. And when I set the hook, it's gonna probably rip out this piece right here and everything else that made this worm, right? I'm gonna set the hook. I'm not actually setting the hook. I'm setting this little piece right here. Seems like a flawed thing to me, but I'm out here to put it to the test. Everybody's looking at the rig. Everybody wants to know how to set it up, but that's not the right question. The question is, does it catch fish? And does it even hold up to one fish? How many fish does it hold up to? Hopefully we catch more than one fish today. Maybe it'll only take one fish to see if this thing holds up to the test of actually catching a fish, if it even gets one. So let's go. All right, let's go put this thing to the test. See if we catch some fish. We just had a ton of rain, historical amounts of rain, so I don't know if they're going to be biting. But if this rig's so magical, maybe we'll catch 20. Or maybe I catch one and the worm actually falls off. Who knows? Now, what I noticed right away when I just cast, the whole worm compressed down. I don't know if it's going to come back straight under the water. But we're just going to have to use it and find out. Now, like I said, what I'm really curious about is when I set the hook, is the whole thing just going to get ripped out of the hook, or ripped out of the worm, all the little pieces of tubing, everything that went into it. And I don't know. The only way to know is to catch a fish. Now, there are weeds in this lake, which is probably going to be horrible for this thing. I do have, yep, got weeds all over it already. Okay, not good in weeds. Kind of knew that with the exposed hook. It does have a little weed guard, but we know it doesn't do much. Now let's see here. What happened here? Okay, one of my tubings came out. The one that's down here on the cast. It's not a great sign. And let me tell you guys right now that it's going to take you a good few minutes to even set this thing up. Now, can you guys see that underwater right there? And what I used on this for my worm is a Magnum trick worm. I noticed the worm needs to be fairly long so that it could fold in that S shape. If it's too short, it's kind of hard to make it get into that S shape. Here's another thing. Every time you reel it in, it feels like you're reeling in a wet rag because the whole worm just compresses. And it feels like, you know, when you reel in weeds, something like that. That's also kind of strange. I don't know if I like that. All right, so there goes my one worm. Right there. Cast it off. This is funny. Okay, look. My worm flew off, and I have all my hardware, literally 1, 2, 3, the swivel, O-ring, and hook. Doesn't get any better than that. Well, kind of disappointing. You know, I had a feeling it would happen, and if it wasn't on the cast, it would have been on the first fish, I'm pretty sure. But it's kind of freaking funny too. All my hardware right there that I used to set up that worm, I still have it all on. And the worm went flying off on the cast. Yep, so that's it. That's the conclusion. I mean, it took quite a while. I had to go get the little tubing for the worm, all that stuff, put it through, get it all just right, and then the worm flies off on the cast. So that kind of answers that for me. Is it worth it to set up that? Probably not. Probably not, because I could throw a shaky head, I could throw wacky rig, I could throw Neko Rig, Ned Rig, something else, and it's still gonna get bit. So is this thing the next best thing since the drop shot? My opinion, not even close. So thanks for watching the video. Had to make this one. Just had to test it out myself and show you all what the results were. That was the first time I literally put it together and went and cast it in the water and tried to fish with it. So there you go. Those are the results. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe for more content. We do a ton of fishing here. Whole bunch of different stuff, different techniques. We brought you guys a video on the free rig a long time ago. That one actually works and will not fall apart. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.